The Advanced Tactical Fighter Program, or ATF, began with studies by the United States Air Force in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The military needed a replacement for the F-15 Eagle to maintain air superiority against new Soviet threats like the MiG-29 and Su-27. These studies highlighted the vulnerabilities of fourth-generation fighters against anticipated fifth-generation adversaries. So, in November 1981, amidst an escalating Cold War, the ATF program was officially launched. The plan was for the new aircraft to enter service by 1995. The military intended to produce 750 units to replace the aging F-15, banking on a technological leap to counter the Soviet Union's numerical and qualitative advantages. Key requirements for the new fighter included stealth technology for radar evasion and supercruise capability. This meant sustained supersonic flight without using afterburners, which conserve fuel and reduce the aircraft's heat signature. Additionally, they needed super maneuverability for dogfighting and an integrated sensor system for complete situational awareness. These specifications were based on a thorough analysis of Soviet advancements in avionics and aerodynamics. Initially, the primary focus was survival in high-threat environments, rather than multi-role capabilities. In 1986, after reviewing the concepts, the Air Force selected two teams for the demonstration phase. Lockheed led the first team, partnered with Boeing and General Dynamics. Northrop led the second, alongside McDonnell Douglas. Each team was tasked with building and flying two prototypes to demonstrate they could meet the requirements. Competitive testing ran from late 1990 to early 1991 at Edwards Air Force Base. There, Lockheed's prototype, designated the YF-22, showcased engines with thrust vectoring. This provided the aircraft with exceptional maneuverability, including post-stall aerobatics, which greatly impressed the selection board with its close combat potential. In contrast, Northrop's competitor, the YF-23, emphasized stealth and speed. It achieved a higher supercruise speed, but it lacked the maneuverability demonstrated by the YF-22. On April 23, 1991, the military selected the YF-22 for further development and production. They cited its superior maneuverability, positive pilot feedback on handling, and the production plan proposed by Lockheed. Lockheed's approach promised lower costs and quicker scaling, even though the YF-23 held an edge in certain stealth metrics. This decision indicated a preference for balanced capabilities suitable for both long-range engagements and close combat, rather than solely optimizing for maximum stealth. In April 1991, the U.S. Air Force chose the Lockheed, Boeing, and General Dynamics YF-22 design over the Northrop and McDonnell Douglas YF-23. This led to a $9.55 billion contract for the Lockheed team to begin full-scale development. This phase transitioned the program from early prototypes to actual production engineering, focusing on risk reduction and perfecting the technology for the F-22 Raptor. The team concentrated on integrating stealth features, advanced electronics, and powerful engines, while ensuring the aircraft could be mass-produced. The YF-22 prototype, which shaped these final design tweaks, made its first flight on September 29, 1990. Lockheed test pilot Dave Ferguson flew it from Palmdale to Edwards Air Force Base. This initial flight proved the core aerodynamic and engine concepts worked, including early tests of supercruise, which is the ability to fly at supersonic speeds without using afterburners. During development, the team added special radar-absorbing materials and structures to the airframe to make it harder to detect, along with infrared-reducing coatings on the most critical surfaces. The engine systems took a massive leap forward with the Pratt & Whitney F-119 engines. They featured two-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles, which gave the fighter incredible maneuverability and better control even at extreme angles. These nozzles could direct the exhaust up or down by 20 degrees, a major breakthrough tested in ground rigs in early flights throughout the 1990s. The very first production-ready F-22 rolled out in April 1997 and took to the skies for its maiden flight on September 7, 1997 at Edwards Air Force Base. This marked the start of extensive flight testing to ensure all the systems worked perfectly together. Those early flights focused on making sure the aircraft was stable, the engines were fully integrated, and the stealth capabilities held up under controlled conditions. The United States Air Force initially planned to buy 750 F-22 Raptors under the Advanced Tactical Fighter program. The idea was to ramp up manufacturing through low-rate initial production lots starting in fiscal year 1999, and then move to full-rate production to achieve economies of scale. But rising development costs and shifting priorities after the Cold War led to constant cutbacks. By fiscal year 2009, procurement was capped at just 183 combat-coded aircraft. This included 10 low-rate production lots and full-rate lots, totaling 177 production jets plus test variants. This massive cut was driven by shifting the budget toward multi-role fighters like the F-35. As a result, the cost per plane skyrocketed. Fixed development expenses, which topped $30 billion by the mid-2000s, had to be spread out over far fewer airframes. During the early 2000s, Congress started looking much closer at the funding for the F-22. The Government Accountability Office pointed out that production costs had grown by more than 20% in the first 3 production lots by the year 2000. They blamed this on concurrency, meaning the Air Force was still engineering the jet while simultaneously building it, which led to costly design changes right on the assembly line. Lawmakers did approve full funding for the early lots, including $3.8 billion in fiscal year 2000 for procurement and research. However, they demanded cost reduction plans to save a projected $5.6 billion. The GAO later deemed many of these savings unachievable because they relied on overly optimistic assumptions about learning curves and supplier efficiency. By 2006, facing broader defense budget pressures, Congress authorized a multi-year purchase of 60 aircraft across lots 5 through 7. This move saved about $500 million by stabilizing production rates and securing fixed-price contracts with Lockheed Martin. If you look at just the flyaway unit cost, meaning the price without research and development, early production lots started at around $143 million per aircraft. But if you take the total program costs and divide them by the number of jets actually built, the true cost effectively rose to over $350 million per plane. This was made much worse by low production numbers, which completely wiped out the benefits of mass production. To try and fix this, they introduced lean manufacturing initiatives and adjusted the overlapping schedules, but the results were mixed. While buying over multiple years reduced annual spending, rushing the program to get jets in the air faster actually caused hundreds of millions of dollars in rework costs. In fact, the GAO had warned about this back in 1995, recommending a more conservative, step-by-step approach to better control the budget. By fiscal year 2011, all these factors had driven total program spending beyond $67 billion for just 195 delivered aircraft. It serves as a stark reminder of the massive financial trade-offs when you cut a procurement program short and lose the benefits of high-volume manufacturing. In 1998, the United States Congress enacted the Obey Amendment as part of the Department of Defense Appropriations Act. This prohibited the use of appropriated funds to approve or license F-22 sales to any foreign government. The main goal was to stop stealth technology from falling into the hands of adversaries, either through allies or espionage. This ban was rooted in concerns over safeguarding advanced, low observable materials, supercruise propulsion, and integrated avionics. It completely overrode the potential economic benefits from export orders, which could have reduced the cost of each jet by building them in larger numbers. Allies like Japan, Israel, and Australia repeatedly asked for access to the F-22 to help deter shared regional threats. But the ban stayed in place. Congress reaffirmed it in 2006 and in later defense acts, choosing to keep a strict United States monopoly on fifth-generation air superiority. These export restrictions made the cost issues of the F-22 program even worse. Back in the 1990s, each aircraft was projected to cost around $150 million, but by the late 2000s, that price had skyrocketed to over $350 million per jet. This happened because the military bought fewer planes than planned, and there were no international buyers to share the costs. United States Air Force leaders, including former chiefs of staff, pushed to buy more jets beyond the cap number. They argued that the incredible speed, maneuverability, and sensor fusion of the F-22 gave them an irreplaceable advantage in contested airspace against adversaries like Russia and China. These were capabilities that the newer, multi-role F-35 just could not fully match. However, in 2009, the Obama administration proposed ending production after the 187th operational aircraft. They pointed to budget limits and believed the F-35 would be enough for the future needs of the military. Congress agreed, especially with the budget pressures following the 2008 recession. The final assembly of the F-22 wrapped up in December 2011. The delivery of the 195th airframe, which included 187 combat-coded jets and 8 test variants, marked the official end of production. This production cap was a deliberate strategic choice. The goal was to save money for broader military modernization while maintaining exclusive United States superiority in stealth air dominance. They decided this was better than building more units or allowing exports, which carried the risk of reverse engineering and could slowly erode their research and development focus. Ultimately, the decision highlighted a clear priority. The United States chose to maintain an unmatched warfighting advantage against rising powers, even if it meant having a smaller fleet and missing out on closer integration with Allied forces. The F-22 Raptor sustainment program focuses on extending the aircraft's life through targeted upgrades. These updates address outdated avionics, stealth degradation, and new evolving threats, keeping the jet combat-ready well into the 2040s. Lockheed Martin's proactive sustainment contract, running from 2028 to 2037, supports the entire fleet. It improves reliability and cuts down maintenance hours to help manage the aging airframes. These efforts rely on real-world feedback, prioritizing modular designs so that commercial off-the-shelf components can be integrated quickly rather than waiting for custom-built replacements. In 2021, the United States Air Force began upgrading the F-22 mission computers through Lockheed Martin. They added Curtiss-Wright open architecture modules under the Tactical Mandates program. This allowed for fast software updates and the integration of third-party applications. This modular approach was fully proven by 2022. It lets government-owned software host combat apps on existing hardware, cutting upgrade timelines from years down to just months, and making the jet compatible with Joint Command networks. By late 2024, the fleet-wide software release 3.2b improved processor fusion for air-to-air missiles. It used real-world threat data to boost computational efficiency without needing a complete hardware overhaul. Recent advancements in infrared sensors include a $270 million Air Force contract awarded to Lockheed Martin in January 2025. This contract is for TAC-IRST, a tactical infrared search and track system. It is a distributed embedded system that provides 360-degree threat detection, increasing survivability against advanced missiles without compromising the aircraft's stealth profile. Other upgrades focus on stealth coatings. Viability packages in 2025 include improved radar absorbent materials tested for high-stress environments, solving issues with older coatings that wore down from environmental exposure. For the Block 20 aircraft, which were originally training jets making up about 20% of the fleet, Lockheed proposed extending these modernizations in September 2025. By adding open mission systems and new sensors, the Air Force could gain 32 additional combat-ready jets instead of retiring them. This full reactivation would cost an estimated $7 billion, but it would expand the active fleet. The F-22 is also being integrated with drone teaming, turning it into a command node for collaborative combat aircraft. Demonstrations in 2025 proved that the cockpit interface could control multiple unmanned loyal wingmen using secure data links and tablet-based autonomy handoffs. This uses the jet's advanced sensors to coordinate attacks against high-level adversaries. Engine performance has also improved. Pratt & Whitney software updates unlocked extra thrust in specific flight conditions. Ground and flight tests showed real gains in acceleration with zero hardware changes. Meanwhile, sensor fusion upgrades combine the TAC-IRST and radar data to track hypersonic threats at long ranges. Because these modifications are based on real testing rather than guesswork, they ensure the F-22 maintains its absolute edge in air dominance, even as future aircraft face budget constraints. In early 2026, Lockheed Martin publicly revealed an upgraded configuration called Raptor 2.0. This version features new stealth-compatible external fuel tanks, known as the low-drag tank package, along with underwing infrared search and track sensor pods. Wind tunnel and ground testing for these stealthy drop tanks finished by late 2023, followed by flight tests in early 2024. Deliveries to operational squadrons are planned by the end of March 2026. These new tanks massively increase the F-22's combat radius without hurting its stealth signature, finally solving its range limitations in hostile environments. At the same time, the infrared defensive system is being developed to provide better missile warnings, alongside the TAC-IRST distributed system. A decision on low-rate initial production for the defensive system is scheduled for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2026. Flight testing of the integrated underwing pods and fuel tanks was already spotted in 2026, with clear photos capturing the modifications during operations over the Mojave Desert. The Air Force has set aside nearly $8 billion for F-22 upgrades through 2030. This budget covers these new enhancements, as well as previous software updates and open architecture integrations. Combined with ongoing sustainment contracts, these modifications support plans to keep the Raptor fleet flying into the 2060s, acting as a bridge until sixth-generation platforms like NGAD enter service. Scale models shown at defense symposiums in February 2026 perfectly illustrated this Raptor 2.0 configuration, highlighting how the external gear is designed to have almost zero radar impact. As of 2026, the F-22 fleet is undergoing major modernization to stay relevant as a bridge to the sixth-generation F-47. Key upgrades include transitioning to the Government Reference Architecture computing environment for open mission systems. This allows software to be loaded in just minutes instead of months. In fact, Raptor Release 1 made the F-22 the first combat aircraft ever to fly with an open architecture. Additional improvements include an advanced external infrared sensor to silently track stealth threats, an upgraded Link 16, and secure data links. These allow the F-22 to seamlessly share highly detailed targets with F-35 fighters and naval assets, turning the Raptor into a highly connected airborne nerve center. These advanced technologies improve sensors, networking, and autonomous drone integration, potentially extending the aircraft's service life well into the 2040s. The F-22 Raptor was designed from the ground up for stealth, speed, and structural integrity. Its airframe and wings feature flush edges, and even the access panels have serrated, sawtooth patterns. This design disperses radar waves, preventing them from reflecting back to the enemy. Approximately 25% of the aircraft's weight comes from advanced composite materials, contributing to its lightweight and exceptional maneuverability. These materials also facilitate the application of special radar-absorbent coatings that cover about 70% of the exterior surface. Titanium forms a substantial portion of the structure as well, making up 67% of the weight in the rear of the aircraft, which provides remarkable strength and heat resistance while maintaining stealth. To efficiently cut through the air, the Raptor employs a blended wing design. The wings seamlessly integrate with the fuselage to minimize drag, while their unique shape generates significant lift during aggressive maneuvers. The twin tail fins are canted outward at a 45-degree angle. This serves two purposes. It provides the pilot with exceptional control for extreme maneuverability, and it deflects incoming radar signals away from the aircraft's front. Engineers refined this design through extensive wind tunnel testing, ensuring the jet could maintain supersonic speeds effortlessly. This advanced stealth technology results in a frontal radar cross-section of roughly 0.001 square feet across typical air-to-air radar frequencies. On an enemy's radar screen, this formidable fighter jet appears as a tiny speck. This is because the design completely avoids the right angles that are prime for radar reflection. Furthermore, the radar absorbent materials are integrated directly into the aircraft's skin rather than being applied as a post-production coating. This makes the stealth treatment far more durable and easier to maintain. Unlike older stealth aircraft that relied on flat, faceted surfaces, the Raptor is engineered to be stealthy from every angle, including the sides and rear. While precise figures are classified, experts estimate the F-22 is thousands of times harder to detect than previous generation fighters like the F-15. The F-22 Raptor fighter jet is powered by two potent Pratt & Whitney F119 turbofan engines. Each engine delivers approximately 35,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner and around 26,000 pounds in standard operation. These engines are engineered for maximum power and efficiency across all speed regimes, from subsonic to supersonic. This grants the aircraft remarkable performance without generating excessive aerodynamic drag. A key feature of these engines is their flat, thrust vectoring nozzles. These nozzles can pivot 20 degrees up or down while maintaining a specialized shape that helps the aircraft remain undetected by radar. Combined with an advanced flight control system, this allows the Raptor to execute maneuvers impossible for conventional aircraft. The pilot effectively directs thrust to override traditional aerodynamic limitations. However, the true marvel of this system is its supercruise capability. The aircraft can sustain supersonic speeds for extended periods, typically exceeding Mach 1.5, without engaging the afterburners. Standard afterburner use generates significant heat, which would immediately expose the jet to enemy infrared sensors. Supercruise, on the other hand, allows the Raptor to remain invisible. This mode enables the aircraft to reach its combat area rapidly and conserves considerable fuel, thereby significantly extending its effective combat radius. For instance, the fighter can cover 100 nautical miles on supercruise within an overall combat radius of 460 nautical miles. Ultimately, supercruise perfectly merges the immense speed and stealth of the F-22 Raptor, leaving minimal detectable trace even during the most rapid combat operations. The F-22 Raptor's avionics architecture brings together multiple sensors to create a single, clear picture of the battlefield. This gives the pilot better situational awareness and a first look, first kill advantage against incoming threats. A key part of this setup is the intra-flight data link. It provides a highly focused, stealthy connection for secure and invisible communication. This allows F-22 Raptors flying in formation to share real-time data like targeting information without breaking radio silence or giving away their position. The system processes information from the radar, electronic warfare receivers, and infrared sensors in real time. It combines all this data to reduce the pilot's workload and help them engage targets beyond visual range, even when operating silently in passive mode. The main sensor is the Northrop Grumman AN/APG-77 active electronically scanned array radar. It handles both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions while staying incredibly hard for enemies to detect. To stay hidden, the radar shifts frequencies over 1,000 times per second. Even while doing this, it can spot non-stealthy targets from 125 to 150 miles away. This radar has a 120-degree field of view and can rapidly shift its focus to track multiple targets at exactly the same time. Working alongside the radar is the BAE Systems AN/ALR-94 electronic warfare suite. This system provides a 360-degree threat warning using more than 30 antennas built right into the wings and body of the aircraft. It can detect, locate, and identify enemy radar signals from far away. It then automatically triggers countermeasures and helps prioritize the most dangerous threats. In January 2025, the United States Air Force awarded Lockheed Martin a $270 million contract to add the Tactical Infrared Search and Track System. This is a network of passive infrared sensors built into the plane to find and track threats without emitting any signals. This system boosts survival chances by giving the pilot a full spherical view in infrared, allowing them to spot stealthy enemies without ever turning on the radar. The first test flights on modified F-22 Raptors were completed by March 2025. Cockpit, human-machine interface, and maintainability. The F-22 Raptor cockpit is designed for a single pilot. It is a compact, pressurized space built for high G-force maneuvers. It features an upward-firing ejection seat and a bubble canopy for better visibility. Instead of old analog instruments, the cockpit has a fully digital design. Data from all sensors is displayed on 5 large multifunction displays and a head-up display. The control system is set up so the pilot can manage the flight, weapons, and other systems without taking their hands off the throttle and stick. This makes things much easier during dynamic combat. The aircraft interface helps with split-second decision-making. At first, engineers wanted to add voice controls, but that turned out to be technically impossible, so they stuck with tactile controls and digital displays. After a recent upgrade, pilots received Thales Scorpion helmet-mounted displays. These provide a full 360-degree view and allow the pilot to aim missiles just by turning their head. This makes the plane way more effective in both close and long-range combat. Additionally, extra touchscreen tablets have been added to the cockpit. With these, the pilot can control drones without getting distracted from flying the main aircraft. Maintaining this fighter is no simple task due to its complex systems and a heavy focus on stealth. Roughly 50% of all maintenance is dedicated to the special stealth coating. It is highly sensitive to friction, moisture, and sunlight. To restore its properties, parts frequently have to be removed and treated inside specialized, climate-controlled hangars. Add to that the need for unique tools and a shortage of spare parts since production shut down. As a result, under normal conditions, only 50 to 60% of the aircraft are ready for flight. That is simply the price you pay for cutting-edge materials and electronics. To remain practically invisible to radar, the F-22 Raptor stows its weapons inside 2 main lower bays and 2 smaller side bays. In a standard air-to-air combat loadout, the main bays hold 6 AIM-120 medium-range missiles, 3 in each. The side bays carry 2 AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles equipped with infrared guidance. For close combat, an almost .8-inch caliber M61 Vulcan cannon is mounted in the right wing, carrying an ammunition load of 480 rounds. The weapon bay doors are hydraulically driven, opening and closing in an instant. This minimizes the time the bays are exposed, ensuring enemy radars cannot spot the aircraft during a missile launch or bomb drop. Thanks to this design, the fighter can approach its target completely undetected and deliver a rapid strike, even under the most difficult conditions. The aircraft is also highly capable of performing a variety of other missions. It can carry precision-guided weapons such as the GBU-39 small-diameter bombs. Their first successful release at supersonic speeds took place on July 11, 2008. By 2012, pilots were actively employing these bombs in training exercises, significantly expanding the aircraft's air-to-ground attack capabilities without sacrificing stealth. Today, engineers are pushing the envelope even further, adapting the fighter to carry hypersonic weapons. For instance, Lockheed Martin has developed the Mako missile, designed to fit perfectly inside the internal bays of the aircraft for rapid hypersonic strikes. The first F-22 Raptor conducted its maiden flight on September 7, 1997, from Dobbins Air Reserve Base in Marietta, Georgia, marking the start of the flight test program. This initial flight, lasting about 1 hour, demonstrated basic airworthiness and laid the groundwork for later evaluations of the stealth features, supercruise capability, and high angle of attack maneuverability of the aircraft, at locations including Edwards Air Force Base in California. Flight testing included developmental and operational phases, accumulating over 5,000 flight hours by 24 to validate integrated systems performance. This included radar cross-section measurements under various conditions and sustained supersonic flight without using afterburners. Dedicated test aircraft, like the YF-22 prototypes, and specialized flying test beds supported avionics integration and sensor fusion trials. They address challenges in software and hardware interoperability through continuous upgrades. These efforts confirmed the low observability and agility of the F-22, with milestones including the first supercruise demonstration in 1998 and weapons bay separation tests by 2001. The United States Air Force declared initial operational capability for the F-22 on December 15, 2005, with the 94th Fighter Squadron at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, enabling full combat readiness. This milestone followed the resolution of early avionics issues identified during testing, allowing the squadron to field 12 aircraft equipped for air-to-air and air-to-ground missions. During its early service, the aircraft exhibited physiological issues related to its onboard oxygen generation system. Pilots reported symptoms akin to hypoxia due to intermittent oxygen depletion during high-altitude operations. These problems led to a fleet-wide grounding in May 2011, following multiple incidents. Consequently, an automatic backup oxygen system and life support modifications were installed starting in 2012 to reduce the risks. The F-22 Raptor saw its first combat engagement on September 22, 2014, participating in airstrikes against Islamic State, or ISIS, targets in Syria as part of Operation Inherent Resolve. Deployed from an undisclosed forward operating base, the aircraft executed precision strikes while establishing air superiority in a non-permissive environment that lacked a conventional adversary air force. Over the following years, through 2017, F-22s conducted routine missions in support of coalition efforts against ISIS, operating undetected to suppress ground threats and enable follow-on strikes by less stealthy platforms. No F-22s were lost to enemy action during these operations. During a combat surge in 2018, amidst heightened tensions, F-22s penetrated deep into Syrian airspace, confronting Russian-operated aircraft and surface-to-air missile systems. Their presence prompted 587 adversary aircraft to abort their approaches toward United States and coalition forces. This demonstrated the platform's effectiveness in suppressing enemy air defenses without direct kinetic engagements, as the F-22's stealth and sensor capabilities allowed it to preemptively dominate contested airspace. The aircraft has not recorded any confirmed air-to-air victories in combat to date, a reflection of the absence of peer-level aerial threats in these campaigns rather than any deficiency in its capabilities. Beyond Syria, F-22s have carried out deterrence patrols in regions facing potential peer adversaries. In the Baltic theater, deployments to bases in Estonia and Poland since 2022 have bolstered NATO's eastern flank, with aircraft conducting sorties to counter Russian air activity and assert air dominance. In the Indo-Pacific, F-22s operate from forward locations such as Japan, executing patrols over the East China Sea to deter incursions and maintain freedom of maneuver amid tensions with People's Liberation Army aircraft. These missions highlight the Raptor's value in high-threat environments, prioritizing presence and de-escalation over engagements. In large-scale aerial combat training exercises like Red Flag and Northern Edge, F-22 Raptors have demonstrated dominant performance against aggressor aircraft, simulating fourth-generation fighters like the F-15 and F-16. During the Northern Edge exercise in Alaska in June 2006, a small number of F-22s achieved 108 simulated kills with 0 losses against opposing forces. Similarly, in early Red Flag iterations, F-22 teams recorded kill ratios as high as 241 to 2. The few losses incurred were attributed to non-F-22 platforms in mixed formations, underscoring the aircraft's sensor fusion and stealth advantages in beyond visual range engagements. These metrics reflect scripted scenarios where F-22 pilots utilize supercruise and low observable profiles to evade detection, even though real-world variables like ground-based threats are partially replicated. Pilot training for the F-22 Raptor emphasizes live fire validations at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida, home to the 43rd Fighter Squadron and the Air Force's premier weapons evaluation programs. In the Weapons System Evaluation Program, Combat Archer 25.09, conducted from September 8th to 19th, 2025, F-22 units integrated with other fighters to execute live missile launches over the Gulf of Mexico. This exercise assessed AIM-9X Sidewinder and AIM-120 AMRAAM performance against towed targets. Earlier versions of this exercise, such as in 2018 and 2020, saw instructor pilots firing live AIM-9 missiles from F-22s. This confirmed weapon reliability and pilot proficiency in close quarters tactics without compromising the aircraft's stealth capabilities. These exercises prioritize data collection on hit probabilities and system integration, contributing to tactical refinements. Recent tactical demonstrations have focused on manned-unmanned teaming, with the F-22 selected as the Air Force's initial platform for controlling collaborative combat aircraft drones. On June 27, 2025, the Air Force approved modifications to equip all operational F-22s with cockpit tablets and secure data links for directing autonomous loyal wingmen in simulated missions, aiming to extend their sensor and strike reach. Integration tests planned for 2025 to 2030 will evaluate F-22's coordinating drone swarms in contested environments. This builds on prior unmanned teardrop demonstrations to validate command and control protocols without exposing the manned aircraft to undue risk. This approach uses the F-22's existing Link 16 and MADL capabilities for real-time data sharing, enhancing exercise outcomes in peer-like scenarios. In the 2010s, the F-22 fighter fleet faced constant maintenance issues. Only 60 to 70% of the aircraft were ready for combat missions. The main reason was the complex upkeep of the stealth coating, which took up about 50% of all repair time. For every flight hour, technicians had to spend over 30 hours on maintenance. This coating, critical to the aircraft's stealth, wore out quickly due to weather conditions and flight stress. Restoring it required specialized repairs that kept the planes grounded for long periods, limiting their use in sustained operations. In the late 2010 and into the 2020, efforts were made to fix the situation. The military improved logistics and introduced predictive maintenance protocols. Artificial intelligence began analyzing data to predict breakdowns and optimize part supply, reducing unscheduled repairs. Thanks to sensors tracking the aircraft's condition in real time, the fleet's overall readiness increased. During intensive exercises, some units even managed to maintain a combat readiness rate of nearly 80%. However, despite all these efforts, the fleet's overall readiness rate dropped to 40% in fiscal year 2024, compared to 52% the year before. The main problems remained the demanding stealth coating, complex electronics, and the small total number of aircraft. This rate is significantly lower than that of older fighter models. The situation is not improving even despite the Air Force's attempts to retire 32 of the oldest jets, because Congress has banned doing so until at least 2028. The strategy for employing the F-22 has also evolved. Thanks to software updates, the aircraft now excels at data sharing and operating as part of a unified network with other military branches. Since modern threats demand coordinated operations in the air, on the ground, and at sea, the F-22 has become a true team player. It's now being prepared for joint operations with future systems, focusing on penetrating dense enemy defenses rather than solely achieving air superiority. The F-22 Raptor is the cornerstone of United States Air Force doctrine for air dominance. It emphasizes penetrating advanced integrated air defense systems to neutralize enemy fighters and surface-to-air threats, thereby creating uncontested airspace for subsequent joint operations. This strategy, born from post-Cold War assessments of peer competition, positions the F-22 to conduct offensive counter-air missions deep within hostile territory. It leverages its low observable design to evade radar detection and its supercruise capability for rapid repositioning without afterburner use that could compromise stealth. When planning operations against sophisticated integrated air defense systems, like those fielded by potential adversaries with layered radar networks and long-range missiles, the F-22's integrated avionics and sensor fusion allow it to survive and strike within high-threat environments that would doom non-stealth platforms. This has been validated in Air Force analyses of modern air defense penetration tactics. By suppressing or destroying key integrated air defense nodes and airborne interceptors early in a conflict, the aircraft facilitates the entry of bombers, tankers, and fourth-generation fighters. This aligns with doctrinal imperatives for rapidly establishing air superiority to support ground and maritime forces. The F-22's deployment enhances deterrence against peer threats from China and Russia by denying them air parity. Air Force projections indicate that its qualitative edge in contested scenarios discourages aggression through the credible threat of decisive United States air campaign dominance. In wargame simulations of Taiwan Strait contingencies, the F-22's contributions to air contention, even amidst heavy attrition for both sides, demonstrate how its presence shapes adversary calculations. It often prevents escalation by maintaining operational tempo over amphibious invasion routes and enabling Allied resilience against initial PLA air surges. The F-22 Raptor's integrated avionics suite uses sensor fusion to combine inputs from its AN/APG-77 AESA radar, electro-optical targeting system, and other onboard sensors. This enables pilots to detect, track, and engage multiple airborne threats at beyond visual range distances while minimizing emissions that could reveal the aircraft's position. This fusion process supports rapid situational awareness and kill chain execution, with the radar capable of low probability of intercept modes for simultaneous multi-target tracking over extended ranges. In simulated war games, the F-22 has demonstrated overwhelming beyond visual range dominance. It achieved kill ratios like 108-0 against mixed fleets of fourth-generation fighters in Air Force exercises. This is thanks to its stealth profile, its supercruise capability for positioning advantage, and fused sensor data that gives pilots the opportunity for a first shot. During early operational testing, including the aircraft's debut at Red Flag exercises in 2004, it racked up a 241-2 air-to-air kill ratio. This proved its near-perfect success at taking out targets beyond visual range before the enemy could even respond. Its thrust vectoring nozzles, which can deflect up to 20 degrees, give it a massive boost in visual range combat. They allow for super maneuverability, including post-stall maneuvers and tighter turn radii. Flight tests confirm this gives the Raptor a decisive edge in a dogfight. When it comes to sortie generation, early exercises showed high reliability. During a 2006 Northern Edge deployment, it hit a 97% rate, completing 102 out of 105 task missions. It also scored 144 simulated kills with 0 losses. However, fleet-wide mission-capable rates have fluctuated. Upgrades after 2010 improved short-term availability, but by fiscal year 2024, those rates dropped to 40%. This reflects the heavy demands of keeping these jets flying, despite modernization efforts focused on avionics and engines. The Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor has much better stealth features than the Chengdu J-20. Its frontal radar cross-section is estimated at just 0.001 square feet, compared to the J-20's 0.1 to 1 square foot. This makes the F-22 roughly 100 to 1,000 times harder for enemy radar to spot in a head-on fight. The J-20's front canards and larger body make it easier to detect, especially from the sides. On top of that, the F-22 packs an internal M61A2 20mm cannon for close combat. The J-20 lacks this completely, relying entirely on missiles. When it comes to performance, the F-22 has a thrust-to-weight ratio of 1.26 when flying on 50% fuel. This easily beats the J-20's estimated 0.95 to 1.0 with its current WS-10C engines, giving the Raptor much better turning speed and energy in a dogfight. However, the J-20's new WS-15 engines, which are starting to see limited use by 2025, might close that gap to around 1.25. The F-22 also has a major advantage in how it processes information. Its advanced radar and computers blend everything into one clear picture for the pilot, while the J-20 uses a more separated system. Looking at the Russian Sukhoi Su-57, The F-22 holds a strong lead in both engine reliability and production. The Su-57 uses temporary AL-41F1 engines that are known to overheat and lack power. Their advanced Isdali 30 engines have been delayed into 2025 due to constant development issues. Meanwhile, the F-22's F-1190 PW100 engines have been perfected over more than 20 years of active service. By mid-2025, Russia only has about 40 to 44 Su-57s, held back by sanctions and production limits. In contrast, the United States has 187 combat-ready Raptors. The F-22's full stealth design and smart sensors easily outclass the Su-57. The Russian jet only has partial stealth, leaving engine blades exposed and making it much easier to track on radar, despite some of the claims made about its capabilities. In simulated war games run by the Air Force using highly classified data, the F-22 consistently dominates its fifth-generation rivals. Whether fighting from miles away or up close in a dogfight, the Raptor achieves kill ratios of more than 10 to 1. This massive advantage comes from its stealth and networking, allowing it to see the enemy and take the first shot long before being noticed. These results clearly show that rival sensors and computers are still a step behind, despite what foreign state media might claim. The F-22 Raptor program cost over $67 billion to develop and build 187 combat-ready aircraft. On average, each plane cost about $143 million to produce. Back in the early 1990s, initial estimates were around $34 billion, but those costs went up because it was incredibly complex to combine advanced stealth, supercruise engines, and sensor fusion technology all into one jet. A lot of the budget overruns happened because they started building the first batch of planes before fully finishing the testing phase. When flight tests revealed design flaws and software issues, they had to go back and retrofit the planes that were already built. They did this to get the jet into service faster after the Cold War, but it ended up costing more because problems from the prototypes made their way into the production lines, and fixing them pushed the price per plane much higher than expected. Supporters argue the money was well spent because the aircraft guarantees air dominance. This deters major competitors like China and Russia, forcing them to spend heavily if they want to catch up. The F-22 is so stealthy and fast that rivals are forced to pour massive amounts of money into countermeasures like advanced radars and their own fifth-generation fighters. This drains their resources from other areas and gives the United States a major strategic advantage without even firing a shot. Studies show that having this kind of power prevents major conflicts. Losing air superiority in a large-scale war could cause trillions of dollars in economic damage. In fact, projections suggest a major war would cost far more than all the military operations following September 11th combined. In actual operations, the F-22 is highly efficient at neutralizing threats. Simulations show that just a few of these jets can outperform much larger fleets of older aircraft. This actually saves money over time because you need fewer planes and fewer flights to get the job done against less advanced enemies. Because a small number of planes can achieve such decisive results, it helps make up for the high initial cost. You spend less on maintenance and support compared to relying on fourth-generation fighters like the F-15. Older jets would require larger numbers and face a higher risk of being shot down in hostile airspace. Critics from budget-focused groups like Brookings argue that buying slightly fewer planes could free up money without hurting military capability. However, that view ignores the massive deterrence value that comes from the unmatched quality and edge of the F-22. In 2009, the U.S. Congress capped production of the F-22 at 187 operational aircraft. This was far below the Air Force request for 381 jets, which they stated were needed to maintain air dominance against major adversaries. Including test variants, only 195 aircraft were ever built. This decision became official in July 2009. Following the financial crisis, the government needed to tighten its budget. They decided to redirect funds toward the multi-role F-35 Lightning II program. After years of operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, military strategy had shifted away from specialized air superiority fighters. Production of the final jet wrapped up in December 2011. The assembly line was taken apart, and some of it was repurposed to build the F-35. This move would make restarting F-22 production incredibly difficult in the future. The military chose versatility over pure air dominance. Buying the F-35 meant getting more planes for joint operations, ground attacks, and exports. They made this choice even though the F-22 possessed unmatched stealth, supercruise speed, and maneuverability, making it perfectly tailored for heavily defended airspace. Critics, including top Air Force leaders, warned that stopping production left the military unprepared for a major conflict. Having such a small fleet also drove up maintenance costs. Operating the jet costs over $44,000 per flight hour, largely because there just aren't enough spare parts being produced. A 2010 analysis by the Rand Corporation pointed out that keeping the manufacturing tools in storage would cost very little and could prevent a hugely expensive restart later. But due to budget pressures, the tooling was still thrown away. Fast forward to today, and great power competition has returned. Since the mid-2010s, China has deployed its J-20 fighter and advanced its area denial capabilities. This has sparked fierce debate about whether stopping the F-22 was a mistake. Analysts now warn of a potential air superiority gap, as losing even a few jets in a major war could cripple the fleet. There have been proposals to restart production, with Congress showing interest in 2016 and again in 2025. They point to the jet's proven success in war games against advanced threats, but the financial cost is staggering. A 2017 Air Force study estimated it would take $10 billion just to rebuild the assembly line. On top of that, building 194 new jets would cost another $40 billion, pricing them at $200 million each. This astronomical cost is driven by obsolete tools, lost suppliers, and a broken supply chain. These numbers highlight a tough reality. Limiting production did preserve the U.S. technological monopoly, ensuring these advanced jets were never exported. But strategically, it left the Air Force numerically vulnerable against growing adversary fleets. In 2014, former Air Force Chief of Staff General Michael Hostage stated that having only 187 jets placed national military strategy at high risk. In a real war, combat losses would drain the fleet rapidly, with no way to replace the fallen jets. This matches simulated war scenarios in the Pacific, where even small losses could cost the military its control of the skies. Still, those who supported ending production argue that fighting alongside the newer F-35 and unmanned drones makes up for the low numbers through superior technology. Ultimately, shutting down the line was a calculated bet. The military chose multi-role versatility over having a deep reserve of specialized fighters. They kept their monopoly on absolute air dominance, but sacrificed the sheer numbers needed to deter a massive modern conflict. The F-22 Raptor's onboard oxygen generating system experienced recurring failures in the late 2000s and early 2010. These failures manifested as incidents resembling hypoxia among pilots. The problem escalated after 2008 and led to a fatal crash on November 16, 2010, when Captain Jeffrey Haney lost consciousness because his oxygen supply was interrupted during a training flight in Alaska. These events forced a grounding of the entire fleet from April to September 2011. Investigations revealed a combination of issues, including leaks in delivery lines, faulty pressure vest valves, and potential contaminants in the oxygen system itself, without finding one single defect. To fix this, the military redesigned the vest valves to prevent them from inflating too early, enhanced the filters to reduce irritants that caused the so-called Raptor cough, and required backup emergency oxygen systems. These changes successfully reduced the number of physiological events after 2012. The aircraft's low observable stealth coatings wear down progressively from rain erosion, temperature changes, and general abrasion. This often requires repairs after just 10% of the surface degrades, which is necessary to keep the radar cross-section performance intact. In fact, these touch-ups account for about 50% of the overall maintenance labor. This vulnerability comes from the brittle, multi-layer radar-absorbent materials applied over the composite structures. They simply lack the durability of non-stealth alternatives, like the unpainted aluminum skin of the F-16. Lockheed Martin stepped in to extend the life of these coatings with new application techniques. Automated robotic systems designed to restore the inlet ducts have been used since 2016. These robots have cut repainting times by 80%, getting the aircraft back in the air much faster than manual methods. Maintenance data shows that as of 2014, the F-22 required 43 hours of maintenance for every single flight hour. This is much higher than the F-16, which needs about 20 hours. This high demand is mainly due to the constant need for stealth restoration and complex sensor diagnostics, rather than the basic structure of the airframe. The limited fleet size of just 187 operational aircraft also drives up the cost per unit, since there are no economies of scale. Back in the mid-2000s, early operational fleets recorded up to 30 maintenance hours per flight hour because the processes for handling these exotic materials were still new. While streamlined stealth inspections have helped bring some numbers down, the F-22 will never match the efficiency of older fighters. On top of that, avionics components like the custom I-96-0MX processors eventually became obsolete. The military solved this by migrating to rugged commercial off-the-shelf components. This allows for easier software updates and hardware swaps, keeping the aircraft computationally superior without having to buy custom-made replacements. These targeted fixes focus on true durability by addressing the root causes of wear and tear. Ultimately, the complex sensor fusion and supercruise capabilities of the F-22 demand a level of maintenance that simply does not exist in fourth-generation fighters. The export ban on the F-22 Raptor fighter passed in 1998 and reaffirmed by Congress in September 2006 prevents it from being sold to other countries. This is done to keep its unique radar-absorbent coating, engines that provide supercruise speed, and advanced sensor systems a secret. The United States fears that these technologies could fall into enemy hands through maintenance in allied countries, accidents, or cyber attacks. This restriction preserves America's monopoly on the world's most powerful air superiority fighter. It guarantees that competitors like China and Russia cannot copy American technologies by acquiring them through third countries. That is why requests to buy the F-22 from partners like Israel and Australia were denied, despite making strategic sense. By keeping this aircraft exclusively for its own use, the government avoids the risks it faced when exporting previous models. For example, the F-16 Fighting Falcon fighter has been received by over 25 countries since 1978. Its technologies often became the basis for adversary developments through captured aircraft, the black market, or industrial espionage. The exclusivity of the Raptor helps deter serious threats. Adversaries understand that American forces maintain an unmatched ability to strike first and penetrate defenses in contested airspace, and this advantage is not shared among many allies. Allies are forced to rely on the less advanced F-35 Lightning II fighter. This gives the United States a significant advantage, because in large-scale conflicts where the F-22 will dominate, partners must operate under American leadership. In this way, maintaining technological superiority and strategic independence prove more important than the financial gains from exporting. The main production version of the aircraft became the F-22A Raptor. It is a single-seat, all-weather stealth fighter built primarily for air dominance, but capable of performing other missions. It entered service in December 2005. Later upgrades allowed it to launch precision strikes on ground targets in addition to dogfights. In its internal bays, it can carry up to 6 AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles and 2 AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles. These improvements transformed it from a highly specialized fighter into a versatile combat aircraft capable of internally carrying 1,000-pound GBU-32 JDAM bombs. Between 1996 and 2011, 195 of these aircraft were built. 187 of them became combat aircraft, while 8 were used for testing. The first production models were primarily meant for training, but were later upgraded to combat standards. The design of the aircraft allows it to cruise at speeds over Mach 1.5 without using afterburners. Thrust vectoring engines provide super maneuverability, and a fused sensor system gives the pilot a complete picture of the battlefield. A massive software update allowed the integration of the new AIM-120D and AIM-9X missiles. The jet received enhanced electronic protection, a radar for threat detection and terrain mapping, as well as the ability to carry 8 small-diameter bombs for precision strikes on ground targets. This large-scale upgrade covered 152 aircraft. It significantly boosted their firepower and electronic warfare capabilities without compromising the stealth of the fighter in any way. The F-22 Raptor's developmental and test configurations include the Block 20 variant, which consists of early production aircraft with restricted combat software optimized for training purposes. This configuration features approximately 32 to 37 aircraft, primarily 2-seat trainers that lack the full operational weapon systems integration found in later blocks. These jets support pilot instruction and systems validation, but are not combat coded. However, the United States Air Force is considering upgrades starting around 2025 to enhance their viability amid fleet constraints. Structural test models for the F-22 underwent rigorous ground-based fatigue and durability testing. This was done to confirm that the airframe's projected service life would exceed 8,000 flight hours under combat conditions. These non-flying prototypes simulated accelerated stress cycles on critical components, including the wings and fuselage. This validated the design margins against cracking and deformation without needing to rely on operational flight data. Avionics development used dedicated integration labs and flying test beds for the rapid prototyping of sensor fusion, radar, and electronic warfare systems. The Boeing 7570-based flying test bed emulated the F-22 hardware and software environments to evaluate mission systems in flight. This allowed for the early detection of integration issues before full-scale aircraft testing began. Ground facilities, such as the Raptor Avionics Integration Laboratory, facilitated hardware-in-the-loop simulations for ongoing software development and validation. In the early 2000s, Lockheed Martin proposed the F-22. It was a strike version of the F-22 Raptor fighter with an updated airframe and an increased payload for regional bombing missions. It was intended to be an interim solution until the arrival of a next-generation bomber, which was expected around 2037. The concept used the latest stealth technologies created after the base design of the F-22 was approved. Possible changes included a delta wing for increased flight range and a larger weapons bay. It could hold up to 30 small-diameter bombs or similar munitions. At the same time, the aircraft would retain the ability to fly at supersonic speeds without afterburners and remain invisible to enemy radars in heavily defended airspace. Studies showed that the aircraft could be built fairly quickly by using existing production lines, but serious concerns arose. The additional structural weight would make the aircraft less maneuverable, and converting a fighter to carry heavy bombs would be very expensive. Even after all these changes, it still would not be able to match the flight range of true bombers. In 2006, the FB-22 project was officially canceled. The United States Department of Defense decided to bet on creating a completely new strategic bomber, which later received the name B-21 Raider. It had a much better range, could carry more weapons, and had higher chances of survival compared to the modified FB-22. Plus, the new aircraft would not duplicate the multi-role functions already performed by the F-35 Lightning II. This decision became part of a new strategy. The military wanted to avoid the massive costs of expanding the F-22 program beyond air superiority. It was in air combat that its unique stealth technologies and modern sensors gave it an undeniable advantage. At the same time, a limited budget did not allow investing money into a platform whose production already had to be cut back. Separately, in the early 1990s, the Navy evaluated the possibility of creating a carrier-based version of the aircraft called the F-22N. Under pressure from Congress, the plan was to adapt the new fighter for the fleet to find a stealthy replacement for the F-14 Tomcat. The proposed changes included stronger landing gear for aircraft carrier landings, folding wings for convenient storage, and a special anti-corrosion coating for operating at sea. But all these modifications would have added thousands of pounds of extra weight to the aircraft. This would worsen its ability for supersonic flight without afterburners and shrink the internal weapons bays. And these exact bays were critically important to keep the radar cross-section of the aircraft under 1/1000th of a square foot. By 1994, the F-22N project was abandoned. The main reason was a fundamental incompatibility of the base design with the Navy's requirements. The standard F-22 was built for fast, high-altitude intercepts, so it had minimal air resistance. But the Navy needed an aircraft capable of withstanding catapult launches, hard deck landings, and the corrosive effects of sea salt. Engineers concluded that these changes would simply destroy all the speed and maneuverability advantages of the aircraft and wouldn't make it any better than other new options, like the F-18 Super Hornet. Canceling the program also perfectly aligned with the military's plans to have common multi-role platforms for different branches of the armed forces. This avoided billions of dollars in redesign costs and prevented duplicating the work of the Air Force while the Navy worked on its own fifth-generation solution, the F-35C fighter. The first fighter wing at Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia, subordinate to Air Combat Command, operates the 27th Fighter Squadron and 94th Fighter Squadron. Both are equipped with F-22 Raptors and comprise roughly half of the United States Air Force's total F-22 fleet of approximately 180 aircraft. These squadrons conduct air superiority missions from their East Coast base, including rapid deployments such as the August 2024 surge to the Middle East for regional deterrence. Under Pacific Air Forces, the 3rd Wing at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska, maintains the 90th Fighter Squadron with F-22s, enabling a persistent presence in the Arctic and Pacific to counter threats from Russia and China through exercises like Polar Force. This forward positioning supports deterrence by projecting power across vast distances. Aircraft routinely integrate for Allied training in the Indo-Pacific, such as at Osan Air Base, South Korea, in June 2024. Both wings execute rotational deployments to forward locations in Europe and the Middle East, sustaining global air dominance with stealth-enabled patrols and beyond visual range engagements. Basing at home stations optimizes maintenance and pilot readiness amid the platform's high sustainment demands. The Air National Guard integrates F-22 Raptors through classic associate units that share aircraft with active duty wings to provide operational surge capacity and homeland defense. The Virginia Air National Guard's 192nd Fighter Wing, stationed at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, became the first Air National Guard unit to fly the F-22 in 2017, primarily supporting Operation Noble Eagle air sovereignty alert missions over the eastern United States. In Hawaii, the 154th Wing's 199th Fighter Squadron operates the Hawaiian Raptors in association with active duty forces at Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam. There, Guard personnel conduct a majority of flying operations as part of total force integration efforts initiated around 2010. The Air Force Reserve Command's 477th Fighter Group, activated in 2007 at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska, functions as the service's inaugural F-22 Associate Unit. It partners with the active 3rd Wing to recruit, train, and mobilize reservists for F-22 missions in the Pacific region. This classic associate model enables reserve airmen to maintain proficiency on active duty-owned aircraft, typically accumulating flight hours during unit training assemblies and annual tours. These non-active components augment active F-22 operations by utilizing part-time personnel for sustained readiness. This reduces wear and tear on high-maintenance stealth platforms through lower operational tempos and ensures seamless total force integration during exercises like Checkered Flag, where Guard and Reserve pilots train to the exact same standards as their active duty counterparts. Such arrangements enhance surge capabilities for contingencies without assigning dedicated F-22s to reserve or guard fleets, aligning with Air Force efforts to optimize the limited inventory of 187 combat-coded aircraft. Maintaining the F-22 Raptor is a massive operation. It's managed by the Air Force Sustainment Center at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. They handle major maintenance, the supply chain, and engineering support, not just for the Raptor, but for other fighters like the F-16 and F-35. The heavy lifting takes place at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. Here, specialists handle structural repairs, upgrades, and restore the highly classified stealth coating. They work on about 24 F-22s every year, double the number they handled before 2015. Lockheed Martin also plays a huge role. Working with the United States Air Force, they use predictive maintenance and a global rapid parts network to keep the jets flying. A major focus is repairing the stealth materials, which actually make up about 50% of the maintenance needs for the entire fleet. When it comes to testing and evaluating new upgrades, the work shifts to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. They run flight tests for new gear, like advanced systems that protect pilots from chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. They even test live engine oil servicing to fix consumption issues and keep the jets in the air longer. Before any new capability is rolled out to the rest of the fleet, test teams make sure everything works perfectly and meets the strict standards of Air Combat Command. Training the next generation of Raptor pilots happens at Joint Base Langley Eustis in Virginia. The training unit moved there after Hurricane Michael severely damaged their original home at Tyndall Air Force Base back in 2018. The basic course is intense. It combines classroom learning, advanced weapons and tactics simulators, and progressive flight missions to master air dominance. For the initial flying phases, students use Block 20 aircraft. These were originally early developmental models, but they've found a second life as training jets, and there are ongoing talks about upgrading them to keep them flying even longer. Once training is complete, graduates move on to active combat units. Thanks to a highly efficient logistics network, these units can conduct training exercises anywhere in the world with almost no delays in getting the parts and support equipment they need. On September 28, 2004, an F-22A Raptor prototype crashed in southeastern Alaska during a test flight from Elmendorf Air Force Base. Investigators found that a software glitch in the flight control system was to blame. This glitch forced the aircraft into a sudden, uncontrollable dive at a dangerously low altitude. No matter what the pilot did, the jet would not recover. Fortunately, the test pilot ejected safely with only minor injuries, but the aircraft was completely destroyed. A tragic accident happened on March 25, 2009, when an F-22A crashed about 6 miles north of Harper Dry Lakebed in California. The pilot was conducting a low-altitude training exercise near Nellis Air Force Base. The United States Air Force later determined that pilot error was the main cause. While pulling aggressive maneuvers at high speeds and low altitudes, the pilot suffered from spatial disorientation and failed to realize how close he was to the ground. Sadly, Captain Jeffrey McMullen was killed on impact, and the jet was lost entirely. The most heavily investigated fatal crash of the program occurred on November 16, 2010. An F-22A went down about 100 miles north of Anchorage, Alaska, during a routine training flight. The pilot, Captain Jeffrey Haney, lost consciousness due to a lack of oxygen, a condition known as hypoxia. At first, investigators blamed the pilot for not noticing the symptoms under high G forces, but deeper investigations revealed critical failures in the onboard oxygen generating system. A lack of proper oxygen flow and a malfunctioning pressure vest caused rapid mental confusion. Unable to eject, Captain Haney perished in the crash. The loss of the $150 million aircraft forced the Air Force to ground the entire fleet for 4 months in 2011 to audit and upgrade the systems. From the start of the program through 2024, the F-22 fleet has recorded roughly 16 major accidents. These are severe incidents that resulted in death, total aircraft loss, or millions of dollars in damage. Investigations frequently point to a mix of human error under immense stress and systemic issues like software glitches, faulty oxygen supplies, and electrical fires caused by worn wires. The accident rate peaked at about 6 per 100,000 flight hours in the mid-2000s, when the jet was still working through early operational issues. After modifications in the 2010s, that number dropped, stabilizing below 2 accidents per 100,000 hours. Still, this rate remains higher than older fighters like the F-15 or F-16. This is largely because the Raptor is incredibly complex, and with so few of them flying, every single incident drastically impacts the overall statistics. After investigating reports of pilots feeling unwell in the F-22, the United States Air Force updated the onboard oxygen generating system. They tweaked it to provide a steady flow of oxygen and required pilots to run it at maximum, especially when flying below 25,000 feet. This helped clear up the hypoxia-like symptoms known as the Raptor cough. The system itself did not have any fatal flaws, but these changes were necessary to prevent any mid-air glitches. In April 2014, the military installed automatic backup oxygen systems on the F-22. By that point, they had not seen a similar incident in 24 months. At the same time, an ejection seat upgrade program got underway. The new seats, developed around 2019, featured better passive head and neck protection as well as arm restraints. Overall, they became much safer, significantly boosting a pilot's chances of survival in extreme situations. To prevent future incidents, pilots began training more extensively in high-fidelity simulators. The Air Force also expanded flight data recording capabilities, which made it easier to quickly track down the root causes of dangerous situations. All of this significantly brought down the rate of major accidents involving the F-22, putting it on par with the safety records of battle-tested older generation fighters. The F-22 Raptor is a single-seat, twin-engine stealth fighter built for air superiority. Its length is 62 feet, its wingspan is 44 feet, and its height is nearly 17 feet. The empty aircraft weighs 43,340 pounds. The internal tanks hold 18,000 pounds of fuel, allowing it to fly long missions without drop tanks. The airframe withstands from -3 to +9 Gs. The Raptor, at high altitudes, reaches speeds of Mach 2.25, which equates to 1,500 miles per hour. It can also cruise at Mach 1.76 without engaging afterburners. This conserves fuel and makes the aircraft less detectable by infrared sensors. On internal fuel alone, its combat radius is 460 miles. If 2 external fuel tanks are attached, the flight range extends to 1,600 miles, though this does compromise the fighter's stealth. The maximum flight altitude is 65,000 feet. Thanks to a high thrust-to-weight ratio, the fighter accelerates instantly and climbs rapidly. For instance, at an altitude of 40,000 feet, accelerating from subsonic to supersonic speed takes approximately 45 seconds. The airframe is engineered for sustained maneuvers at up to 9 Gs without risking structural failure. At sea level, the top speed exceeds 920 miles per hour due to the denser air. With afterburners engaged, the F-22 can climb at a rate of around 62,000 feet per minute, although the precise official figures are classified. The F-22 Raptor's armament is primarily carried internally to maintain its stealth profile. It's equipped with a single M61A2 Vulcan 20mm cannon, holding 480 rounds stored in the right wing root, concealed by a retractable door during stealth operations. Its standard air-to-air loadout consists of 6 AIM-120 advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles housed in the main ventral bay and 2 AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles in dedicated side bays. For air-to-ground missions, the aircraft can carry 2 1,000-pound GBU-32 Joint Direct Attack munitions internally, with the capacity for up to 8 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs, or mixed configurations that include 2 AIM-120s for self-defense.